Hello, morning, and welcome to Glasgow Rangers Nation with me, your host, Aaron James. Guys, we're not home today. I'm out from the kids' house. Look, we're going to talk obviously about the match day. It's match day. Rangers travel to Pittodrie to take on Aberdeen, who are above us. I mean, that's just a crazy situation, isn't it, to be above us, and to have a situation where we're actually, I don't know, some people say we're the underdogs going into this game, but I genuinely don't think we are. I think realistically, you look at it, I would say that, bookies have still got us as favourites. But Aberdeen will fancy their chances. Of course they will fancy their chances against us tonight. They're above us in the league. They showed that, second half when they played against Celtic, when they went for Celtic, they really did look a decent team. So look, they're going to play with no fear tonight. Of course they are. They're going to play with no fear tonight. But look, we've got to start off by talking about the accounts that were mentioned yesterday. Look, there's positives in the accounts, but there's a massive negative in the accounts. And I think the overall message that comes out of the accounts that have been released by the club is that this club is being very, very, very badly run. No real business could sustain the losses and to sustain the damage that this club is taking on a season by season basis. It really couldn't. If this was your business, if this was your industry, you'd be probably taken into receivership by now. You really wouldn't be able to operate, and your shareholders wouldn't tolerate it. And if you're solely relying on the loans of your shareholders, your major shareholders, to keep you out of bankruptcy, I think it's a sad state of affairs. It really is. Now, the positives obviously coming out of the accounts were a record turnover of 88.3 million. That was an increase of 4.5 million from 2023. This was largely driven by gate receipts, hospitality, and commercial. Retail sales were slightly reduced, probably a sign of the hard economic times in which we live, where people are genuinely struggling in the real world to get by and to actually feed their families and things like that, but I don't want to turn this into a political podcast. The costs are up by 1%. First team costs were reduced by 2.5 million. That was obviously with the departures of big wage earners like Conor Goldson, Borna Barisic, and John Lundstrom. First team costs were reduced by a further 6 million due to these summer departures. We also benefited from a business payout from the COVID season of 3.9 million. And there was also a profit on the sale of the Albion car park of 1.1 million. We made a profit on the sale of players. This was last year's window, 5.6 million, primarily Kamara and Sakala. This left us with a loss of 9.9 million before one-offs. Non-recurring costs were 3.4 million. This relates to a settlement that was made with Elite Sports, which totaled 3.8 million. Finance costs were 4 million in the year. 2 million in interest was paid on these costs. There is a further 2 million still waiting to be paid, which is pretty bad. But look, all of this comes at a real eye-watering net loss. Now, yet last year we made £252,000 profit, which was obviously negligible compared to what them across the city make on a season by season basis due to their successful trading model. Obviously, they're going to make a major profit this season from selling Matt Riley, and obviously as well their Champions League thing. Obviously, Rangers missing out on the Champions League is a major downside, and as I've said on a number of occasions, the Europa League just isn't cutting it at all in terms of finance. And I think, the fact that we look at Europe sometimes and we say, well, Europa Leagues are level and it's better to compete in that is very, very short-sighted, and you need to give your head a wobble if you're thinking that, because Europe at this moment in time, given how poor we are in domestically, is realistically just a cash cow. It should be there just to earn money. And if we go into the Champions League, we lose 8 games, who gives a shit as long as we get the 30-40 million pounds out of the Champions League? But the biggest line up on this is the fact that we made a £17.2 million loss. That is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, that is a huge loss. That is massive financial mismanagement by this board. The fact we also owe 22.3 million in director loans still as well. John Bennett is owed 11.4 million by the club. Woolhart and Halstead are owed 10 million by the club. And Woolhart apparently has historic 0.9 million loan repayable still. The interest on those loan payments are 4 to 6%. We are, I don't think, in looking at these underlying numbers, very much, we're not in a great place financially at this moment in time. There are positives, there are downsides. Obviously, the major downside is this business is being completely and utterly destroyed by absolute, complete and utter ineptitude off the field by this board. The board are proving season upon season they cannot run this club, and those people who've argued, and of course without the evidence that we've got now, that this board are doing a good job running this club, keeping us above the 2012 disaster. Are talking out the tops of their heads now. This board are destroying this club. It's £17.2 million. Adam Thornton of Heart and Hand tweeted out yesterday, the accounts are pretty clear. 2 to 3 years of spending huge amounts of money at random on ill-fitting players without a clear plan or strategy. Caught in a vicious circle of spend and sack, and every year we add more debt and a few more players who won't suit the next guy, and on and on and on. I mean, it's just absolutely accurate. With the comment that was made, the club was talking about the trading model. What trading model? At this moment in time, we wouldn't get 10 million for any one of the players that we've got. The board are taking us backwards, and until there are big changes at the top, nothing will change. And I think this is absolutely spot on. Until this club changes at the top, and that means the getting rid of the absolute virus that infects our club, which is the Park family. Graham and Douglas Park have proved on a number of occasions now, and with the latest results of the latest results that have been released, maybe people will finally realise how awful a job these people are doing in running this club. Like I said, no business would survive this set of financial results. And if you go back across all the years from 2012, no business would survive the set of financial results that we are continually turning out. It is just appalling. The transfer strategy at the club at this moment in time is an absolute joke. 1.7 million for Robin Propper, who is a very average footballer. We got virtually nothing for Goldson. We got virtually nothing for any of the players we sold this summer. We brought in virtually nothing for the players that we did send out this summer. So it's a very sad state of affairs, and I think the situation is that realistically, when it comes to Philippe Clement, people talk about sacking him. I genuinely, honestly believe now that looking at these financial accounts and these sets of financial results, that even if he was to lose every game between now and the end of the season, we could not afford to sack him. There isn't the money within the club to sack him now, unless someone comes in and buys a major stake in the club or takes over the club to some extent. There is literally a situation where we are solely dependent on A, trying to sell players to raise money, and B, trying to get into the Champions League next season, or bringing in more money from Europe or more money somehow to develop this club. Because this moment in time, we do not have the funds to compete. We do not have the funds to compete with Celtic. I think we've got to kind of look at this now and say that realistically, the January transfer window will be a situation of signing loans and frees. There will be no substantial budget for the manager or the director of recruitment to buy players, because there is no money in the club unless there is investment. That is the big thing. Investment needs to come in. If investment doesn't come in, then this club will continue to, it's kind of a doomsday scenario for me. The club, I don't think will go bust, because I think the directors will continue to fund the club and continue to see the club stay above water from that aspect through director loans. But that's not the way forward. You can't rely on that to keep you going. You need a strategy to bring in money and to make profit, because that's what Celtic do. But realistically, we are in danger of becoming a irrelevance in this league, becoming a bigger version of Aberdeen, becoming the Espanyol to their Barcelona, becoming the Borussia Dortmund to their Bayern Munich, becoming the Lens, the Rennes to their Paris Saint-Germain. There is literally that situation now where this league could easily become a one-horse race. It could become, I think this was joked by one comedian, show jumping. Look, it's a sad state of affairs for the club. It's not good at the moment. The financial situation is poor, and that is down to, like I said, the absolute shit strategy, the shit-arse strategy that has been running this club for the last 12 years. and I include every director in that, Dave King, Douglas Park, John Bennett, everybody is to blame and has to share an equal part of the blame for the way the business has been run. It has been run in an absolute shonky way, and it is an absolute disgrace. And like I said, you honestly, if you are thinking of supporting this board and supporting them, I ask you the question: could any business survive a loss of £17 million? A loss of £17 million? Realistically, no, they could not. It is not a situation that a real business, a business in proper private sector trade, in retail industry, in whatever industry it's in, the manufacturing industry, the housing, whatever, would not survive. It just would go under. We have got a situation that needs addressing. We need a new direction at the top. We need a new leadership at the top, and we need it done ASAP. Absolutely ASAP. Right, let's turn our thoughts to tonight's game. Obviously, we've got. It's an absolute must-win. I mean, look, we'll be honest. Let's be honest about this. It is an absolute must-win game tonight. There literally, there can be, absolutely no doubt in my mind that this game is 100% must-win tonight, because to lose tonight would put us further behind Celtic, further behind Aberdeen, could put us up to 9 points behind Celtic, which is what I'm more worried about. I'm not really worried about Aberdeen. I think they may well fall off as the season progresses, but realistically, to be 9 points behind them going into the end of the season, going into Christmas, into this Christmas period that we are now going to be entering November, December time, is just not good enough. It is absolutely not good enough. And I think, that obviously a lot of that goes down to the manager. The manager has proven that, his tactics are piss poor, that he is, has no style, that his in-game management is very poor as well. Substitutions don't actually make any discernible difference to what is actually going on the field. Look, that's part of it, but the players also have to carry a part of the blame as well, because the players have not been pulling their weight at all. The players are massively underperforming. But as to, we'll go over the history of this fixture, we'll go over the sort of results. Now, I believe that this will be the team that Clermont will play tonight. I think he'll start with Butland in goal. I think James Tavernier will be back in the team, and I think Aberdeen will absolutely rip him a new one. They will target that right side of the defence over and over again, because Tav is just absolutely dreadful. He really is. Suter and Proper will probably be in central defence. Hjefte at left back. Proper is a bomb scare. I mean, look, I'm not saying that I'm not writing him off and saying take him out of the team and forget about him and get rid of him. But what I am saying is it's time to take him out of the firing line, because I think his confidence is only going to take a huge blow. Barron and Raskin and Diamande for me in midfield. Barron and Raskin have to start. Raskin has to start. The guy's been different class in the last couple of games. He has been one him and Barron, the only players that have really proved themselves over the last couple of games. So for me, it's got to be Barron and Raskin. Diamande plays because what else is there at the moment? Tom Lawrence, I think, will be on the bench. Clermont has said in his press conference that Lawrence can play, but perhaps not 90. So I think the likelihood is that we'll see him from the bench. He does that an awful lot with these players that return from injury, doesn't he? He puts them on the bench. I think Suter is the exception because he's a central defender. Then Cheney on the right, Bayrami on the left, and I think he will start Dessers because we literally have nothing else in the attacking field. Denier is still making his way back. He's not available. Hamza, I think for a game like this, you can't start with a kid like Hamza. I just don't think that he's got the wherewithal and the experience to be able to go up against Aberdeen tonight and actually, start the game up. I think he can come on and have an impact, certainly, but not actually start. My preferred starting lineup would be this: Butland, Cass at right back. I just think Cass is a better right back than James Tavernier. I honestly believe that the best policy for this club going forward is never ever to put James Tavernier in the starting lineup ever again. I really genuinely believe that. The guy is just an absolute joke. Suter and Balogun in central defence. I think Big Leon has been outstanding. He's probably our best central defender still. Hjefte, I'd go with Barron, Raskin in as a 2. I put Cheney on the right. Bayrami in the 10 role, Lovelace on the left, and Dessers up top. But I know Lovelace is a kid, but I think he's a very, very talented player. I think he's got more than enough potential to actually lead to play and to have an impact. I mean, we saw last season when he played against St Mirren how well he did. I thought he did well when he came on Sunday. So I would definitely be giving Lovelace a start tonight. I mean, historically, look, this is a game that we have struggled in recent times up at Pittodrie, haven't we? We haven't done particularly well, in terms of results up there. It's just not been great at all. I mean, there's last season was the draw. The season before we lost. It's not been a great time up there, and we all know that part of the reason for that is because they absolutely get themselves up for this game. To them, this is their Champions League final. We know that when Rangers come a calling, when Rangers come to Pittodrie, we know that this is their be all and end all. This is the game they live for, don't they? They absolutely live for this game, and this has been the truth throughout time. I mean, I heard Graham Roberts been interviewed on a podcast, and he said, that if he was an Aberdeen fan, that he would be really angry with his team that if they play every single game like they play against Rangers, they would certainly be in contention for the league title every year. Because of the fact that at the end of the day, they do push themselves and do get themselves up for this game. I mean, the overall record against Aberdeen for Rangers is we played them 102 times, 63 wins for Rangers, 17 for Aberdeen, 22 draws. We scored 196 goals. They scored 94 goals in that time. In terms of our record at Pittodrie, I mean, let's take that out and have a quick look at that. I mean, the Pittodrie record is 51 games, 23 Rangers wins, 13 Aberdeen wins, 15 draws. I mean, certainly the record at Pittodrie is slightly under 50% in terms of win percentage, which for Rangers is not great. Goals as well, closer, 64 goals for them, 85 goals for us in that time. I mean, we go back across the fixtures here, as the lights start to flash in the kitchen. The results over time, 1-1 last season, then there was a 2-0 to Aberdeen. We beat them 3-2 the year before with the Arfield goals, 1-1, 2-1 to us the season before that, 1-0 to us the season before that, 2-2, 1-1. I mean, it's a very much a mixed bag of results from Aberdeen, a real sort of, I don't know, I mean, draws dominate. I mean, that's one of the things you can kind of pick up from that, is that the draws do kind of dominate the results a little bit. Perhaps, a lot of people thinking that maybe a draw tonight is probably going to be one of the more expected results and may have higher odds on it, but it's a game we really cannot afford to draw. It's a game we cannot really afford to drop any more points in. I think we've actually reached a point in the season when we can't afford to drop any more points, and I include playing against Celtic in that. We can't afford to draw with them. We have to beat them now in every game that's left going, because of the situation that we find ourselves in, the situation we've left ourselves in. I mean, in terms of Aberdeen's recent record, you can see they beat Dundee United 1-0 on Saturday. They had a 2-2 with Celtic, where, according to a lot of people, they were unlucky not to actually get the victory in that game. 3-2 against Hearts. They won 2-1 away at Dundee. 4-0 against Spartans in the quarterfinals of the Cup. 2-1 against Motherwell. 1-0 against Ross County. 2-0 against Kilmarnock. 1-0 over Queen's Park in the League Cup. 3-1 over St Mirren. And 2-1 win over St Johnstone on the opening day of the season. So their results record is very, very good this season. It is good this season. And in terms of the table, you can see the table there. We sit some 6 points behind them. They haven't been beaten at all this year, so they're actually going into this game unbeaten. So their confidence will be an all-time high. Look, I'd love to know your thoughts on tonight's game. I really would. I mean, look, I usually try to obviously predict positively. I usually try to think that this is going to be a game that we can win, a game that we will win. I'm going to go for a 2-1. I'm going to say 2-1 Rangers, tight game, but we win 2-1. I don't think it'll be a walkover by any stretch of the imagination. I think it will be very, very tight. But look, let's have some confidence that we can go there and get something. I think it is not going to be a footballing spectacle. I don't expect a great game, but I'm hoping that the boys can at least battle through and get a 2-1. Guys, let me know your team predictions. Let me know your team scores. Let me also know your thoughts on the financial results of the club. Thank you so much for watching Glasgow Rangers Nation, guys. As always, please smash the sub, ring the bell, drop me a comment, drop a share, drop a like, do all that great stuff. Thank you for watching. We are the people.